The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show. Today's show, our first expert, we got two great experts coming on today. Our first expert, I haven't shared this with her, but I guess over the last 3 months, it seems like people are passing that we never thought. We thought they were in great health and they weren't up in age at all. And I'm not going to blame it on COVID, but I kind of am. And then I saw that LeBron James' son had a heart attack, his kid, who's an athlete. And the last thing LeBron James thought is his son would have not only did he have a heart attack, but he almost lost his life. And the point I'm trying to bring out is we just never know. We never know, all we know is today. We don't know tomorrow. And our next expert, she actually works in estate planning. And we're going to be talking about estate planning. And it's so important not to take for granted that people will be here tomorrow and to get your business taken care of today. And we are so blessed because when you're talking about your future, you've got to have an attorney that you really feel comfortable with, you feel confident with, and who really, really cares about your estate planning. And God just gave us the most wonderful person. Let me introduce you to attorney Julia Dean. Good afternoon, Julia.
Good afternoon, Steve. It's so good to see you.
Always good to see you. So, first of all, we're getting letters. God, we got 2 letters from Galveston. That's your area.
It is.
We got 3 letters from Huntsville. That's also your area. So we're getting all these new people who are coming, who are listening or watching the show. So tell people about your practice, because there's a lot of people out there who are meeting you for the first time.
Well, thank you, Steve. This is my love, my passion is to really help people, and being in the estate planning, probate, guardianship, and elder law area, I get to do that. I get the privilege of doing that every single day and meeting with so many different people. I've been in practice of law over 30 years and over probably 20 in this area of law. And I just loved it. I started out more in litigation and civil appellate law, but I ended up here because that's really where my heart is, in helping people and making sure we're either avoiding problems or we're helping them through a very difficult time, maybe a death or a disability, and making sure we're doing it in a best way possible for them. I went out on my own 16 years ago so that I could spend extra time with clients and just make sure that I was listening to their needs and not so worried about every billable minute, and just making sure they were being heard and their needs were being addressed. And so, I've had the privilege of working with a great team that also feels that same way. And so that really helps when we're interacting with clients, because it's not just me who feels a sense of mission and helping people through this sometimes a difficult time, or in strategizing to avoid those difficult times. So a lot of what we do may not make as much sense to everyone, but our goal is to avoid problems. So, we're thinking about all the what ifs, and they say I have a really simple situation, but really it could be very complex. And so we want to keep it so it is simple and that we can not have the complexity, because we are addressing things proactively for them in their estate plan. So I've been practicing
Does it
now for 30
surprise
years,
you?
believe it or not.
That's
So enjoy it. I love
if
it.
you're watching this on TV, you would be surprised. She looks like she's early 40s. But Julie, does it surprise you how many people do not have a plan?
It does. Over half the people do not have a plan, and that is, and even more, or the percentages get even greater when you add into that people who have outdated plans that basically are not working the way they want it to. I think the latest numbers are about 60% of people don't have a plan at all. And then when you factor in other people that just don't even have it the way they want to, or the way that's updated in a way that's really functioning for them and for their family, it's the vast majority of people. And so this is just such an incredibly important area. And I think the problem is it's so important, but it's not urgent for most people until something happens with a loved one. And now either they need it immediately, or their loved one does, or they see what happens when they don't have that planning in place. And that's a really awful situation to be in, when you want to talk to a doctor and you can't, or when you want to make a decision for your loved one and you can't, and you want to access a bank account and you can't. Those are all really crisis situations. And what we want to do by estate planning is to really avoid those situations. So it's your legacy planning, but it's also your disability planning. And that's so important because we never know when that's going to happen to any one of us. It could be in the blink of an eye, a car accident or whatever. And so I think most of us think, okay, we can wait until we're older, but we really can't. We just don't know when that time will come. So for any of us.
I am shocked when I hear about, and we've talked about this many a times on the show, people with who have money like Prince, but he had no will. Exactly. Something as simple as not having a will, or Larry King putting his will on a napkin. I mean, I don't understand how people think something as easy as a will. And we are starting to get letters now of people who've done those, I call them verkakte wills online.
Yes. Beware, really beware.
I mean, it's just like, why don't you just go and have it done right? And these people wrote because they were upset. They felt like they were scammed with these online wills. Mm-hmm. And it's just so I think it's just important to have a firm like yours to write that will for someone, because you know all the questions to ask.
And there's so many what ifs that we have to address, as well as not just who gets what, how they get it, tax planning, making sure we're proactively planning for any kind of tax issue in the future, long-term care planning, disability planning. We have, we need to think about asset protection and divorce protection. And usually most people, it's just like who gets what and what percentage, or, the dollar amount. That's a portion of it, of course, but not the primary portion. I know it is for my clients, but I think about all the what ifs and dealing with it and putting it all in a good plan for them, so that what they really want to have happen works for them.
We also have people who wrote us, Julie, wanting to know if they have put a plan together with another firm and they've heard our show and they really like you. Can they come in and have you look at their plan? Do you work with clients like that?
Oh, absolutely. We do look at other plans. I can usually pretty quickly tell if it's a really extensive plan, then I would need time to review it. But generally, most people's plans that they have in place, especially if they got it online, I can tell really quickly what's happening. And generally, we'll be doing our own, but sometimes we'll be modifying somebody else's. But most of the time, it's better if we start again or we modify in such a way, like if they already have a trust, restating that trust. So I know that all of the provisions that need to be in there are in there, whether it's for long-term care planning or tax planning or a variety of issues that I'm looking at. But if they already have a trust in place, like a living trust in place, we can restate it so that all the funding that they've done before, by funding, I mean getting the assets into the trust or the beneficiary designations through the trust, will still be valid. So yeah, it's always good to have a second look at that and just make sure it's working for you and it has all the contingency planning that we want to have in it too.
You have this, your brain is filled with what people need to know. They have no idea sometimes even what to ask. Right. And you've done this so many times. If you're watching us right now on TV, you can see we have a chat line to the right. You're more than welcome if you have a question for Attorney Julia Dean. We are going to we have people writing in questions all the time, and we're going to go to those questions. There's some really great questions out there. I want to start off with John from Friendswood. He said, I've heard of a trustee, but what do they actually do?
Good question. So a trustee is someone who manages the funds inside the trust. So they would be investing them, in different bank accounts or stock accounts or in the home or farm or whatever they're doing. They would be deciding on distributions to the beneficiary. So let's say, a family member is a trustee for your child, then that let's say it's an uncle. The uncle would then be making the investments and making the decisions to make distributions out for the benefit of the child. And so that could be, it can be set up if it's a minor child to also go to a guardian as well. Oftentimes we pay directly for needs. Sometimes they make distributions out in cash to help them, but it depends on the type of beneficiary we have and whether or not that would be a wise idea to do that.
What we have, we're getting a lot of mail now from parents who have kids wanting to know what's better for a minor child, having get involved with a trust or a will.
So you definitely want to have trust planning for a minor child. It can be within a will. So it's a testamentary trust, we call it, or it can be within like a living trust or another trust to provide for your children. You probably have heard that there's minor beneficiary trust that it's give out at certain ages when they become adults, like maybe a third when they become 21 and a third when they become 25, and then the remainder when they turn 30. Well, I really don't like those because you lose all the protections of the trust when they turn those ages. And so if you have a lifetime trust for any of your beneficiaries, you have asset protection for their entire life. Because otherwise the creditors just wait. Let's say your child was in a car accident when they turned 20. They're going to wait until the child turns 25 and grab that money and the 30 and take more of it. So they can renew their judgments every 10 years. But if you want those creditors to go away, then what you do is you put it in a lifetime trust because they never have access. It's great when you have a child in a profession that maybe they're more likely to be sued, a doctor, anyone in the medical profession, the legal profession, CPAs, and then also our entrepreneurs. People like to sue them if they can, what we call pierce through the corporate veil and get through the corporation, get to their individual assets. We want to keep them protected, whatever you give them. So we can make that a protected nest egg for your child or grandchild. And we can do that through a lifetime trust that never stops, So, and that can go on for generations to generations as long as there's assets in it, what we call dynasty trust planning. And now in Texas, we can do that for 300 years, which is a huge change, less than 2 years ago. And we used to have a weird rule, and we could go someone's life plus 21 years. And you never know how long that was going to be. And we had to pick a life. And it was so weird. So really now we have certainty. It can go on for 300 years, except for real estate, which can stay in a trust for 100 years. So it's really nice that we can do some dynasty planning, thinking for future generations. And, what a wonderful gift we can give to our loved ones after us.
When it comes to estate planning, does that fall under federal laws or state laws?
A good question. It's kind of a combination of both. So a lot of what we're doing tax-wise deals with federal laws here in Texas, because we don't have the any inheritance tax effectively here in Texas. We just have the federal inheritance tax. So we're planning that way. A lot of the provisions are federal type of provisions, like our marital deductions and things like that. But it's also state driven in that there are some laws that can impact our estate planning, and there, especially our financial or medical documents, medical in particular. There may be some tax planning in other states that we would have to do, or if we have a beneficiary that lives in another state, even though we're here, we need to be thinking about the tax impact for them as well. So someone in Massachusetts who gets taxes that are state and local, now you're getting taxed 3 times. And same in like New York. A lot of our coastal states, we have a lot of state inheritance tax, where in Texas, we're just worried about federal inheritance tax. But we can't just think about ourselves and our position. We need to think about our beneficiaries and the fact that they may move. So I'm always planning with taxes in mind, not only here, but also in other states and localities.
How often should somebody have their will reviewed?
So anytime there's a major life change, we definitely want to look at, does this impact it? Whether it's a change, a marriage, a divorce, a death, maybe a child has gotten married or having children. We usually try to plan as best we can for all those contingencies, but it's always good to take another look at it. We also want to see when our own life changes, like maybe we retire, our asset composition changes, we have more in assets, or the tax laws change. Maybe the state tax exemption or death tax exemption comes down lower, and now we need to do some more planning that we didn't have to do when it was higher. So like right now, the federal estate tax exemption is 10 million plus inflation. So we're at 12.92 million. Well, most people are not going to have to worry about a federal or a state death tax. But they might when it goes back in January 1st of 2026, which is a little over 2 years from now, and it goes back to 5 million plus inflation. Or if the laws change and, in the latest Democrat proposal on Build Back Better plan, they were wanting 3 to 3.5 million. And so we have seen, just be a political football that gets thrown around all the time. When I started working in this area, and it was a while ago, it was $600,000, for an exemption. Well, I was planning for young families that had really nothing in assets except their home,
right,
and their term life insurance policy, because the IRS sees your term life insurance policy as part of your overall estate. Well, most people don't consider that part of their estate because they can't feel it and touch it, and they're not going to get it until after they pass away. But the IRS sees it as yours. And so if you have that $1 million policy, you've now, at that point, we're over, and we had to do some tax planning. So a lot of people are not thinking about those things when they come into my office. And so that's why, I look at things comprehensively and make sure that, okay, you may have a tax problem you don't even know you have, and so we're going to plan for that. Or you're right on the edge. I have a lot of people that they're right on the edge. Do we do some proactive planning? Well, that's always better if we can get some proactive planning in place. So if we go over, let's say we're over 100,000, now that's a $400,000 or $1 million, that's a $400,000 tax bill, or just even $100,000, it's a $40,000 tax bill. Nobody wants that for their loved ones. So we can certainly, if we're bumping up against any of those exemptions, do some proactive planning.
What, if you do planning for in case somebody is in a major automobile accident, do they want to be put on life support? There's many things that you do. What happens if a person's in a bad accident, comes into the hospital unconscious? How do they know that they have someone overlooking their estate and what to do?
That is
How
a
does the
major
hospital know?
problem. It is really a major problem. And so let's say when they come in, they're going to start looking for your ID and, see if there's any kind of card that shows, that you have some medical documents that they can access, someone they can call, so but until then, the doctors are in control of those decisions, which you may not want them to be.
Right.
You may want your loved ones to be making those decisions for you.
That's right.
Yeah. So what we do is we have what we call a legal vault program where we put documents online and they receive a card that they can put with their health insurance card or ID. So if they are in a car accident and they're taken to the hospital and can't communicate, they if it's near their driver's license or insurance card, they will find this medical card and it has a medical symbol on it, and then they can get to all of their medical documents, not their trust documents or wills or anything, but they can just get to the medical documents, and you can put on doctor's information, you can put allergy alerts, health alerts, you can put emergency information, like if you were taking care of a grandchild and now you need someone to watch the child because you were picking them up at 3:00 in the afternoon for school, now they can notify someone, so pets at home, other things like that. So it's just it's a great way to communicate when you can't communicate and to get the right information, so you're dealing with the right medical information for someone you have no idea who might be handling your care and what access they might have to your medical information. So there they have it.
There's a text that just came in. I'll bet you she owns a dog. She wanted to know that do many people put their pets working into their estate planning?
Yes. Well, I do not have a dog because we travel a lot, but I have plenty of grand dogs, and so we enjoy them. And I have a couple grand dogs that are service dogs too. And so, it's just, I know how important that is. And yes, we can do planning to put in place the right caregivers that you would want for your pets, as well as to do a pet trust. And so we've done those for a variety of pets, including dogs and cats and parrots and all kinds of things. So there is a limit on how much we can do in Texas, but it's very generous still. You can't be like the millionaire in New York. I don't know if you've heard about this lady who gave all her money to her cat, I think it was. And she had a son, but you don't want the son to have any of it. So he inherited the mansion and all the accounts, or the cat inherited all. And he did contest that, of course. But in Texas, it is limited to approximately $250,000 that can go towards the pet's care.
What are your feelings on contesting a will, Attorney Julia? I'm sure you have people contact you who want to talk to you about contesting the will. Right. What do you tell people?
Well, first of all, I don't take on contested cases in litigation, but I would bring on other counsel, and I have a few that I really love, and either I work with them together or go ahead and pass along the case to them and just help in any way I can. But litigation is a whole different animal, and you need to be set up with the right staff and to do all the discovery and other things. And I used to do that. And so I see those issues and I see what, oftentimes needs to be done. I also warn people that it's going to be a much more difficult time consuming and expensive process than they ever imagined. And, if there's a way that we can cut off that so we're not damaging as much, at least the family relations and everything else, then we want to try to do that. And sometimes I'll serve in more of a negotiating role to help kind of come up with a family settlement agreement so we don't have to go that route, because it is incredibly expensive and difficult emotionally on everybody, because it's just a difficult.
Julia, I am so upset with you right now.
Why?
Your show is so good. I just looked at the clock.
No.
We are. You just got so much valuable information. For those who are listening on radio, give them your phone number and your website address.
Okay, thank you. It's 281-277-3326. And my website is Julia, Julia, Dean, Dean, law, law.com. So just juliadeanlaw.com. And we'd love to talk to you. There's a contact us there that you can submit. And we try as much as possible during work hours. There should be someone answering the phone. So we have, 3 people that, if there's not one, then there's backup. But if you can't get through, leave a message and we will immediately call you back as soon as we're available.
You're amazing. We got to go. We have another show coming. Thank you. Have
thank
a
you, Steve.
wonderful and blessed weekend.
Thank you. You too.
And Julia will be back with us again several times this month. We'll be letting you know. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Let's go to our break one, and then hopefully we have our next guest.
K. Bender Rembaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On kbrlegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rembaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rembaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rembaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. I see a smiling face. If you're watching right now on TV, you can see the smiling Janet Bennett. Folks, this is personally has become my favorite show because I have sleep apnea, and not only do I have it, but it's caused a lot of trouble, health issues, which it's affecting me now. So what's so great about Janet is she developed exercises that can actually help you to stop snoring. And I got to tell you, if you're married, you snore, your wife snores, boy, I got to tell you, you don't want to miss today's show. We're so excited about having her. Welcome, Janet.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I got to tell you, this has become my favorite show, and you're going to find out that I am actually doing Janet's exercises.
Yes.
And it is actually working for me, which I kind of knew it would, but that means that I'm going to be it to me. I can't answer for anyone else. I'm going to be able to get rid of my CPAP machine, which I hate. I hate my CPAP machine. Now, it might be different for others. I don't know, but all I can do is answer for myself. We started about 3 weeks ago. I've actually had 2 good weeks. Janet, you are a miracle worker.
No. No.
So tell people, first of all, tell people about your practice.
Well, okay, so I am Janet Bennett. I have a master's degree in speech pathology, and I have had a private practice since 1994. And now I am specializing in helping people stop snoring and stop lisping and to stop coughing and having all these problems here. And,
Rust.
and so I did develop a program specifically to help people stop snoring. And Steve, today I would really like to go from the beginning to the end pretty quickly for these people that are listening on what it would be like if they did my program. Could I do that?
Well, can you do me one favor? Because it's the best thing. Your football player story.
Okay.
From the beginning.
Okay. So this was in 2003. I was treating a 14-year-old football player in my office. We didn't have Zoom then. And he had been to me 2 times. He was back for the 3rd week of exercises. And his mom came into my office and she said, "Janet, what are you doing to Adam?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. What do you mean?" She said, "Well, he's always been the loudest snorer in the world, and now he's not making a sound." Well, I didn't know anything about snoring. So I turned to Adam and I said, "Well, Adam, tell me more." And he said, "I'm making better grades. I can concentrate better in school, and I run faster." Well, the run fasting part got my attention because, like I said, I didn't know about snoring.
Right.
So I looked on the internet after we met, and I just knew I was going to find that they treated snoring with tongue exercises because that's what I had just done with Adam. I gave him exercises and he stopped snoring. So there you go. But that's not what I found. I found that they like to lop off your uvula, that thing that hangs down in the back, and that didn't help. Or they like to break your jaw and pull it forward so your airway is bigger, and that's a horrible thing to have happen. And I don't think really got rid of the snoring. Or you can spend like $6,000 or more and get an appliance made for you to pull your jaw for. Anyway, there were all kinds of weird things. And when I was looking at the reviews of all of it and what the people thought, it was horrible. There was no success rate really to speak of at all. So I got excited. That changed my whole world. And I have been working on it ever since. So I came up.
Were you surprised, Janet, how many people suffer from sleep apnea?
Absolutely. But now sleep apnea wasn't my focus at the time. I still,
Right.
I was just learning about snoring. So what I know now, and so all of your listeners, you probably know this too, but if you snore and continue to snore, and as you get older, you keep snoring and your snoring gets louder and your mouth opens wide, or as you breathe through your mouth when you're sleeping, that can lead to sleep apnea. And sleep apnea is when your tongue totally occludes your airway and you can't breathe. And fortunately, we have an area of the brain that will make us snort and wake ourselves up. Okay, so that's the story of sleep apnea. So excuse me, it makes sense to me that if you learn how to stop snoring, you won't be able to get sleep apnea. Okay, so are you ready for me to tell you? I want the listeners and the viewers to know, if you were to say, "Oh, I want to do this program," then I want you to know what it would be like, because right now you don't have a clue.
That's right.
Okay, so what it would be like is you go online and you purchase the program, and it is a 7-week program. Each week you have a new lesson, and each lesson has 3 to 5 exercises. So it'd be like a table of contents. and you open it up online, and you would see lesson 1. So you would click on lesson 1, and you would be able to see me teaching an adult male how to do the exercises. So you'll be able to, you can look at that a million times if you need to.
And it's easy. It is so easy.
Right. It is. It is. But then now here's the catch. There's always a catch, right? This is the catch. You have to do your exercises 2 times a day. You have to, or it won't work. I promise. Okay. Now, if you get sick for a few days and can't breathe through your nose and all that, then I understand, but you can make it up. You can, you just do it as long as you need to. Each lesson, they have their different exercises because we work the muscles from the front to the back. You'll be learning different exercises each week and practicing. But then the great thing is you just hit another button and go to one of my other websites, and I'm there in my exercise room waiting for you to come in, and we'll do the exercises together. You don't need to read anything. You don't need to know anything. You just imitate me. If you have to do it 5 times, I'll count. If you have to do it for 5 minutes, I'll time it. So I'm trying to make it all super easy. So there really is no reason to fail.
You're there to hold their hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so then, you'll start waking up in the morning, hopefully feeling like you have more energy. So what you're going to learn through this, there are a couple of goals, big goals. One is to sleep with your lips closed. Okay. You are going to stop mouth breathing. That is the big culprit, mouth breathing.
Which I was doing.
Yes.
I was guilty of it.
That's right. And you have to be able to physically breathe through your nose to do this program. If your nose is physically clogged up, don't buy this program. Okay? Because you won't be able to do it. But what you do need to do is go to an ear, nose, and throat place to get it fixed. So anyway, the other thing that it does is it trains your tongue to live on the roof of your mouth. Okay. And the reason that does that, and the reason that's
there is a difference.
And the reason it's so important is like when the saliva builds up in your mouth, if your tongue is up on the roof of your mouth, the saliva is building up and you've got to swallow. Your tongue is in the right place right then to swallow it safely. Right, Steve? Wasn't that a new swallow when you learned how to do it?
Exactly.
Yep. So it
was a weird feeling when I first did it.
But it's a safe swallow. So many people get strangled.
Yeah.
So many people feel like there's something stuck right here, and their doctor will kind of, think, yeah, okay, whatever you say, and they'll put the little scope down and they'll look at your vocal cords and here in this area, and they'll say, there's nothing there. And then you walk away feeling kind of like, okay, he must think I'm weird, but you are correct. There is something stuck in there, and the doctors just don't know it because you had a weak swallow.
Right.
And when you swallow, let's say you chew up a cookie, and when you have a weak swallow, you don't get the oomph that's needed to push that down quickly. And so it's easy for a little crumb to hang back here and there. Okay, so it really is a problem, but you get rid of it with this program. You're going to wake up feeling better.
I want to tell everybody, it doesn't happen that night, but it's a gradual. And mine took about 3 to 4 days. And all I did was the exercises that you taught me how to do.
Well, and you get in the habit of
and they were easy.
That's why you have to practice it 2 times a day. See, I always know when I'm treating someone, I know when they aren't practicing, okay, because you do see results. So, and people don't understand what mouth breathing can do. Mouth breathing can cause so many problems. It can cause you to wake up with a dry mouth or a sore throat that goes away pretty quickly, or a headache that goes away pretty quickly. You can have trouble concentrating during the day. The biggest thing is that you have that daytime sleepiness. So at about 1 o'clock or so, you get sleepy, And as you do exercises, and this goes away pretty quickly or gets better, you'll notice one day,
It
oh,
does.
I didn't get sleepy until 3 o'clock today. And then later it's like, oh, I was only sleepy for a few minutes. It's gradual improvement. It's so fun to watch and feel this happen. And then one day comes and you don't take any more naps and don't get sleepy. And that's because you're sleeping with your mouth closed.
That's
What were you going to
right.
say?
And you know what? I would find myself, and if you've got, sleep apnea or snoring problems, that in the afternoon you find yourself dozing off. And after my fourth day of your exercises, I didn't find myself dozing off at all.
Okay,
And
I
the
didn't know
reason
it
why
happened
you
that
dozed
quickly.
off is, 4 days.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I haven't dozed off today. But I'm sure everybody's body is different.
Well, but when it comes to daytime sleepiness and mouth breathing, everybody's the same, actually. Okay, because half the world breathes through their mouth, and it causes the same kinds of problems for people. All right, whenever you breathe through your mouth, your body is not able to get access to a very important gas that you make in the sinus area. It's called nitric oxide. So when you breathe through your mouth, you're not able to use whatever is up here in your sinus area, and you're breathing in cold, dirty air. And so that means this nitric oxide is what rejuvenates you during the night. It regulates things. It touches just about every part of your body as far as
It does.
renewing it.
It does.
I'm not a doctor, but it helps in keeping the amount of oxygen in your blood flowing, the right amount there, and keeping your blood flowing, and just lots of things. So when you breathe through your nose, all of a sudden you get warm, clean air, and you can take advantage of the nitric oxide. And that's when you start waking up feeling better.
Right. I think also I noticed that I had a much sounder sleep, if that makes sense.
Yes, because you get into REM. You're not allowed to get into REM sleep when you mouth breathe. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, that's huge.
And I want some people to know that I have the worst case of sleep apnea. I haven't even really talked to you about this, but I was in the hospital last week, and they were telling me that sleep apnea causes so many health issues. And because mine was so bad, it was even causing more problems. So I am telling you, first of all, you have nothing to lose with Janet. Nothing.
That's right.
But you know what? And I'm not saying that you can throw the CPAP machine out. And I got to tell you, Janet not once did she tell me you're not going to have to use the CPAP machine.
No.
So her honesty has been so refreshing.
Good.
And she knows what she's talking about, because I know all about snoring, and she knows so much when it comes to snoring technique, sleep apnea. Look at you! You've got. I call it the toothbrush.
So now let me introduce the tongue stick. The tongue stick has two distinct ends, little balls on the end of that one. This is shaped like a triangle. Can't get my hand to move the right way. But anyway, I needed to find a way to make a person's tongue skinnier. Okay, this is really big. And I forgot all about it.
I didn't know this.
Most people who have a large percentage of people who have a tongue thrust have a wide tongue, a really wide tongue. And it might be squished in the mouth. And when you stick your tongue out, you might see what we call scalloped edges around it. But that's because your tongue is running into your teeth, because there's not enough room for it, really. So this program wants your tongue to live up there, which is smaller. So we've got to make the tongue skinnier. So I invented the tongue stick, and this tongue stick will literally wake up the muscles on the sides of your tongue, and it will make your tongue skinnier. And you also learn how to do an isometric exercise with the tongue stick. And that's really fun too. So your tongue gets stronger and it gets more toned, and you feel like a new person. You're not biting the sides of your tongue anymore, and just lots of good things. And there is a
Show
secret.
everybody how it works, Janet.
No, that's my secret.
Well, I'm talking about it's the techniques you have to use. And I got to tell you, that which you invented, this is just perfect for doing that.
Well, what you have to do is you have to stroke certain muscles in your tongue.
Yeah.
Okay. And an isometric exercise, I'm sure you've heard this. You push both fingers together with the same amount of pressure, but you don't see
Yes.
any lateral movement. Okay. But you do feel it, the muscles in your arm. So you actually create an isometric exercise between the stick and your tongue. It's really very interesting. The other thing I don't want to forget to say is there is a 60-day money-back guarantee on this program. So if you honestly practice 2 times a day and still don't see any changes, not getting any better, then I will gladly refund your money. But I can count on one hand how many people have asked for their money back since 2003. So it's a pretty good record.
It works, people. It works. I had to get off of it for about 4 days while I was in the hospital. But as soon as I got out, I got right back on it again.
Okay,
And
good.
I got to tell you, I have seen such a difference. Because when you have snoring problems, you kind of wake yourself up at night when you're sleeping and you start snoring. You wake yourself up. And all of a sudden, I noticed, wow, I didn't snore last night. Now, if you've never snored before, that would not mean anything to you. But when you're a snorer like I am, I mean, one night is amazing.
Right. That's right. Because you got in a REM sleep for the first time in I don't know how long. Right?
And I think I had thrust too, by the way, because you're right.
Yes.
My tongue filled up my mouth.
That's right.
And who would ever think of something like that?
I know.
So, and do you treat very many kids at all?
Yes, I treat children also. Yeah, you got to treat the children, because if not, they'll grow up to be adults with tongue thrust and mouth breathing, and we don't want that. So yeah, it changes their lives. It really does. They get to sleep and concentrate in school. Years ago, and I think it still stands, about 86% of the kids who were diagnosed with ADHD really were only sleep deprived. Okay, because when you learn how to breathe out of your nose, stop breathing through your mouth, your anxiety level goes down. Okay, and that's what ADHD is too. Anxiety levels are up. So it helps your anxiety level go down. You are more calm, and it just does a lot of good things.
Well, I am so excited about this. I've been on the CPAP machine for 3 years. And even if I just went to only having to be on it twice a week or 3 times a week rather than 7 days a week, I would be one happy camper.
Right.
But it's really obvious because I could feel it start to get better after I went on your program.
Right.
And that was what was so great about your program.
And
the fact that you want to help so many people.
I do. And right quick, the fact that you could, let's say that you get like Steve, and he can really tell a difference. And then one day he wakes up and, I think I might have opened my mouth while I was sleeping because I've got this dry mouth that's come back. So your symptoms may come back if you never really got in the habit. See, you are going to do these exercises to make you in the habit. so that you don't have to think about it for the rest of your life. But if something did change, you would know it immediately, and you could go do some more exercises.
How long do you do your treatments for, or suggest?
Seven. Well, there are 7 weeks of
Right.
lessons.
But how long should they be doing them for?
You mean how many minutes, or
An hour, 30 minutes?
no. Each, to practice, you might need 10 or 15 minutes to practice one time. Okay.
See, it doesn't
So
take very long.
Doesn't take you hours. And just to think, I treated a guy who did stop snoring, stop breathing 60 sometimes an hour. And he wouldn't use he had a sleep study, didn't use a CPAP machine though. And he did my program, went back for a sleep study, and he had come down to 11 times an hour. So, and he did that in 8 weeks. He went from 60 sometimes an hour to 11 times an hour. And that's wonderful, because that certainly is less stress on his heart than the 60 sometimes.
Give everybody your phone number, Janet.
Okay. 828-285-8814, and correctmytonguethrust.com. Check it out.
And what's your website address again?
It's www.correctmytonguethrust.com.
Well, Janet, I can never thank you enough. I know why you're with the show. Janet will be back with us again in a couple weeks. If you want to see today's show, just go to iHeart, put Ask the Experts TV show, put in there Stop Snoring. All Janet's shows will come up on iHeart. Janet, thank you so much. We're starting next Friday. We're going to go back on doing our exercises. I've gotten it okay with my doctor, and I can't wait to get started back up.
Good.
Again.
I can't wait either. I'll see you then.
Thanks. Thank you, Janet. Have a good weekend. And we'll see you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.